This Shabbat we conclude the reading of the book of Leviticus with the double portion Behar Bechukotai. The bulk of the portion Bechukotai is this list of blessings and curses that the people will experience either if they follow the covenant, and hence the blessings, or if they stray from God's path, hence the punishments, which raises an important theological question and a spiritual question as well, namely, what is our motivation for being religious? What is our motivation for understanding God's existence, and more so, that as a result of knowing that God exists, that we need to act accordingly? It's one thing to understand, perhaps even scientifically and objectively, that there is a God. It's quite another thing then, with that knowledge, to become religious as a result. So, what is our motivation? Is it left to us to understand that God exists and therefore to act appropriately? Or do we need some outside influence, some motivation, some inspiration? So the ancients had the idea that perhaps if people felt threatened by punishment, and especially dire punishment, then perhaps they would act accordingly, that they would be good. In other words, it's almost as if the religious notion here is one of a child. How do we teach children to follow the rules? Is it negative influence or positive influence? Do we slap their hand when their hand is reaching for the cookie jar? Or do we say, honey, do you really think that a cookie is a right idea now when we're about to eat dinner? So the same idea, by extension, is applied to this portion. And so we have this ancient idea that perhaps fear is a motivating factor for inspiring people to act appropriately. And as moderns, when we read this section, perhaps we're embarrassed by it, perhaps we feel that it's anachronistic, perhaps we feel that it doesn't apply to us. But there could be some who might suggest that we should delete this portion from the Torah, that it just goes totally against our idea of what it means to be a religious, spiritual Jew today. And perhaps that's reflected in the traditional practice that when we get to the portion about the curses, that the Torah reader reads through it quickly and in an undertone. The original idea was not to tempt the evil eye, but perhaps it's a sense, let's get through this, let's understand that really the important part of the portion and the important part of the Torah was what we read a couple weeks ago, love your neighbor as you should be loved. It just reflects the evolution of religious ideas, and that fear really has no place in modern life and modern religious life. Shabbat Shalom.